Okay, and then when you're here, make sure you go back to the Google Meet 12 and hit turned in. I have the due time at 8:15, so just do it before then. Okay, so this is Math Notes 21. This is our last one, and it's actually combining a lot of the topics that we've already done. So this is, we're going to graph by converting to y equals mx plus b. Okay, so this is a combination of two lessons. Okay, so example 1, we have 2x plus 3y equals 12. And I want to graph using y equals mx plus b, but it's not in the right format. Do any of you remember how to change the format on this one? Anyone remember what we did? And it's okay if you're wrong. Well, what do you think? Do you remember what we did? You can flip back to your MN note and see if you see one that says converting in the title. So flip back to your notes and see if you see one that says that says the word converting in the title. Converting. I'm not sure what MN it is. So just glance through your MNs and see which one says converting to y equals mx plus b. It just doesn't say the word graph. Did anybody find it? Anybody find it? Okay, Brandon, how do I move a 2x? Do you remember how I move a 2x? Mm-hmm. Okay. Emily, where else do I need to put the negative 2x? Uh-huh. Okay, and then we wrote here not like terms. Those canceled to give us 0. And then what's the left side of the equal sign say? Carissa? What would the left side of the equal sign say? The left side of the equal sign. 3y, I agree. And we'll take the sign down in case it was a negative. It's not a negative, so it's fine to just put 3y. But if it was a negative, we would put negative 3y. And then on this side, it doesn't make 10. It doesn't make 10x because they're not like terms. Paul or Zyla, do you remember how we wrote the right side? So Paul, Zyla, or Franz? Does anybody remember how we wrote the right side on this the other day? Yeah, that's exactly what we did. We did keep the negative, so negative 2x plus 12. Mm-hmm. So it's like we brought them down. Remember I was writing like I brought them down and then I didn't put this sign in. I just put them next to each other. And then I would ask you, well, what sign is the 12? And then we decided it was plus. And that's how we got a plus here. Okay. Zyla, do you remember what we did with the 3? remember what we did with the 3. We did change colors. I don't know if that helps you. But what did we do with the 3? What do you think? What do we usually do with the hugs? Zyla, what do you think? What do we do with the 3? Zyla, if you're here and you don't know, just say IDK. And then at least I'll know you're here. Okay. Paul, do you know how to get rid of the 3? Uh-huh. And then Zyla, what do you think you divide by? So Paul said divide. But Zyla, what do you think? What do you divide by? Yeah, divide by 3. Cool. Okay, so y equals, and then this one, we'll leave the -2 on the top and the 3. And then remember we put the x kind of to the side. Don't put it underneath the line. Like, don't make your x too low. And then this right here is actually a division. So that'd be a 4. Okay, so what we're doing is we're combining this lesson with the lesson that you did yesterday. So yesterday, homework 61, we wrote what the slope was. Oh, you know what I forgot to write? I forgot to write the equation. So let me write the equation underneath. So you write the equation, y equals mx plus b. This is looking good. Everybody kind of looks like they're in their right spots, right? The y's are in the right spots, the equals, the x's. And then it looks like the m is equal to -2/3 and the 4 is equal to b. So then we wrote slope. And we wrote m equals, what did we write? M equals what? What was m? Anybody? Because you all answered at least one. So what do you think? What was the m, and then what was the y-intercept? Let me check my phone and see if anybody had tried to get on. Successfully. Nope, not yet. Yeah, -2/3. Yeah, good job, you guys. This is one of the most common things we do in math, is graph lines. And this is the line. So the most common thing we do is graph lines, and we often convert it to y equals mx plus b form. This is very common. You probably have to do this in Algebra 1. There's probably 20 different days in the school year that that this would be involved in your problem. Getting y by itself in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, and then somebody different from Franz and Paul, what about the y-intercept? Anybody remember what the y-intercept is? Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So one thing is, a couple of you, I don't believe you've seen the corrections yet. Okay, you haven't seen the corrections yet. So when I was looking at homework number 61, and so we haven't done 61 yet. This is right 0, up 4. Some of you accidentally went right 4. You did everything else right. And then we write here rise over run. So is that 2 up 2 or down 2? And I'm going to text the people who aren't here. But is that what would the rise be? What would my initials be? Remember, we put like U and, okay, let's see, D2. I agree with I agree with Francis, D2. And then he said right 3. I agree with that. And then we'll put an or. So you can go exactly backwards if you want to. but that's only if you can't fit it. And there's one section in chapter 8 that I believe you need it too. Okay, so let's graph. Let's graph. So do you start with the slope or do you start with the y-intercept? So do you remember where our starting point was? You know, I don't think I have Jeremy's cell phone number. Jeremy's missing, but I don't have his cell phone number. Selma. Okay, so that's it. Okay. So, oh, let me go back to the chat. What'd you guys say? Do you remember if you, so flip back one day, flip back to Mn20. So on Mn20, does it say, where does the 1 show? Does the 1 show 1 circle? Like I wrote this, I'm writing it in the corner. 1 with circle. Where did I write that? Next to the slope or the y-intercept on Mn20? So take a look at your Mn20. Okay, so flip back to yesterday. That's why you're taking a notebook, because the notebook will help you do that. So did we have a big number 1 by the slope, or did we have a big number 1 by the y-intercept? Do you guys have your Mn20s, your Math Notes 20s from yesterday? Look at maybe example 4. I think example 4, I put the number. You guys, usually when I ask you guys to come to class, I say good morning. But this time I just told, I told poor Thelma, come to class. I forgot the good morning. That was kind of rude. Sorry, Thelma. Maybe she's not here yet. Okay. No one has an idea? What do you think is 50-50? Okay, so we're going to start with the y-intercept. So put a 1 here. And maybe you didn't label. Put a 1 there and put a 2 there. Okay. Okay, so you have to start up 4. Okay, so this is your start. That's your y-intercept. And then you have to use your directions to get to the next dots. Okay. Is Jeremy here yet? Did Jeremy come? No, Jeremy's still missing. I wonder if I should text Jeremy's dad. I think I have Jeremy's dad's phone number. Oh, I do. Okay. So we start at 4. And then the we want to use this slope. Okay, so this is what we do second, is go down to right 3 from the dot I made. So I'm changing to red. So we're going to start right here. So see where my red dot is? So put your pencil there. And then let me zoom in so you can see the graph paper lines better. I know it's not loving my graph paper lines. And then you go down 2 dots. Was it down 2? Let me see what Franz wrote, because I can't see the work anymore. Yeah, down 2, right 3, right? So go down 2 squares. So 1, 2 squares. And then go right 3 squares. And then put it up. And you don't have to draw the loops if you don't want. You can just count. But I'm hoping that maybe that can help you because you can't see my graph paper perfectly. Okay. And then down another 2 squares. Down another 2 squares from that dot, and then right 3 squares. Down 2 squares, right 3 squares. Down 2 squares, right 3 squares. And then I can fit that, so I don't think I need to do a backwards one, but if you want to do a backwards one, I'm just going to make it in green so you could see it, is you start back at the 4, and then you go up 2, and then left 3, and then there's your dot. Oh, and then I need to put some number labels. So let me put 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We are supposed to number label our graphs. Okay. Okay, questions? What do you think? Can anybody tell what this number is right there? What does that look like on your graph? Can anyone tell what that looks like on their graph? It's really hard to check your graphs. I mean, I can check your graphs when you're doing it, when you upload it, but it's a little different. Can anyone tell where that spot is? Where does it look like on your graph? Okay, so you guys, we're going to do one more. Mine looks like 6. So it should hit at 6. The red dot on the x-axis should be 6 if you made every square worth 1. Okay, so we're just going to do 2 examples, and then you're going to do homework 62. And then the rest of the day, we're going to take doing correction for, I think there's 6 assignments we haven't done corrections on, and then making up old assignments. Just trying to get your grades as high as we can get them. Okay. And then we're going to try to have each person have a 20-minute meeting with me so that what I can do is help you organize some of the assignments that maybe you don't know what they are, like you're confused by them, and then I can help you with them. Okay. So example 2, 3x minus 4y equals 12. Okay. So step number 1. Zyla, what do you think we do in step number 1? And then look at your step number 1 for example 1. Okay, so look at example 1 to help you figure out what step number 1 would be. Okay, so what do you think, Zyla? The first step in example 1 was subtracting 2x from both sides. Yeah, subtract 3. It's 3x, but that's right. Right idea, so 3x. And then I also put it over here. Paul, on this side, what do I get? What do I get on the left side? What do I get on the left side? What do you guys think? I want to bring this down. So Paul, what do you think? What do you get on the left side there? Yeah, negative 4y equals. And then Brandon, what about the right side? I agree, Brandon, but don't change it to 9. Okay, so I agree with this, but you're going to keep it the 12 because they're not like terms. Okay, so that's good. And then Carissa, what do I do next? What do I do next? That's exactly what you do, Carissa. Divide by negative 4. Divide by negative 4. And then I get y equals. Now, this negative and the negative, I'm going to write it to the right. A negative divided by a negative is a positive because there's that rule that says SS positive. That's for dividing and multiplying. So even though I can't actually divide them because 4 does not go into 3 evenly, I change it to a plus. There was one problem that we had that looked like that in our homework, but we hadn't done an example question like it. So here's our example question for that. So a negative divided by a negative turns out to be a positive, so that changes to a positive. You could technically leave it as negative 3 over negative 4, which would be down and left, but that's irregular. So I want to show you the way that most math teachers would want you to do it. But it's not exactly wrong, but it's not simplified the other way. But you'd get the right graph. Okay, and then 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. Okay, so we write y equals mx plus b. And then I want to write the slope. Oops. The slope is m equals, and then the y-intercept looks like a coordinate. And then we're going to do the y-intercept first and the slope second. That's our plan. Okay, so what would the slope be? Jeremy, you can copy down example 1 later. We're almost done with example 2, and then I'll let you copy both down, okay? So just come to where we are. So if you look at example 2, Jeremy, do you remember what the slope is? I should probably wait for Jeremy. He's probably too fast. Probably just barely trying to figure out what in the world we're doing here. Emily, let me change. Emily, what's the slope? What's the slope? Yes, so the slope is 3/4. And then Jeremy, what's the y-intercept of this example 2 that we're on? What's the y-intercept? 0, negative 3. Okay, and then Jeremy, something that you were doing wrong on your homework is you were graphing this negative 3. You weren't labeling this. So make sure you label this, what I just labeled. you made a very common mistake, and actually most people haven't done this homework, so I don't know this mistake, but the mistake is that you forget to say right 0. So what people do is they go left 3 because they just ignore the 0. So you do want to stop and pause and say, don't go right or left. So right 0 and then down 3. Okay, but it's very common because it's a mistake that almost every Algebra 1 student has made at one time or another. Okay, so when you get in Intro to Algebra, you will be taking, you will be having questions that are like this one. Okay, so on your graph, okay, I do need, we forgot to write something by the slope. So we're going to write up 3, right 4 by the slope. I just wrote that by the slope. Okay, so you're going to start down 3 squares, and please go full squares. Some of you guys are going like half squares and little tiny marks. You really can't do that. Okay, you really need to do it this way. Okay, you need to use each square as one. So you're going to start here. Okay, and then from here, you do up 3, right 4. So you do 1, 2, 3 squares. So let me jump up 1, 2, 3 squares, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, right 4. And then up 1, 2, 3, and then right 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you might be off the page. So that's where a backwards point would help. So over here, we could also go down 3 and left 4. And that's because originally they were both negative. So you could do down and left, which is the same thing as positive. So that's one. So then I go back to my 0, -3, and then I go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then left 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. Okay, and then that's your line. Oops, I missed. And then you have to label your 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You do have to label with numbers. And then your lines should always end up being straight. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to zoom out so that you guys can see both examples. Okay, and then I'm going to write the homework problems to the right here. So this is homework 62. I'm just going to do like notes so we don't have to write the instructions. And then make sure you're doing your homework on a separate sheet of paper, okay? I'll give you 3 questions because we have what? 25 minutes? So 8 minutes per question. That should be enough. Oh, okay. I was like, friends, I don't know what that means. I thought maybe that was like a symbol for something. So the do like notes is basically change to y equals mx plus b, convert, then find m and b, find slope and y-intercept, and then graph. And remember, one number per square. Okay, so you guys stop making extra lines, okay? So that's homework 62. And that's actually the only new homework we're doing today. Okay, that's the only new homework we're doing today. Everything else, we are going to figure out the old homeworks, upload stuff, do corrections. Okay, so we will be doing corrections today. I think there's 6 assignments to do corrections on, including 62. So, and remember, you guys, if you don't do the homework, then you can't do the corrections. Okay? So I will upload this picture. Okay, I'm going to stop videoing.